The team to play Wales in the Principality Stadium on Saturday is Will Addison, Andrew Conway and Jacob Stockdale on the wings. In the midfield, Bundy Aki and Chris Farrell. In the halves, Kieran Marmion and Jack Carty. And the forward pack is Dave Kilcoyne, Niall Scannell and John Ryan, Ian Henderson and James Ryan in the second row, with Tyke Byrne, Peter O'Mahony, who will captain the side, and Jack Conan in the back three of the scrum. The replacements are Rory Best, Andrew Porter, Tyke Furlong, Kevin Toner, Geordie Murphy, Luke McGrath, Gary Ringrose and Dave Carney.
Joe, you said absence was a general malaise about the team. Have you seen that lifting over the week, or is that something that will only be clarified at half 4 on Saturday?
Yeah, I have seen a lift. I do believe we're in a better place to actually play rugby now rather than prepare to play rugby. And I think there'll be evidence of that, but as you said, the confirmation of that doesn't come until we get through to the final whistle on Saturday and we see how players have performed.
Well, have you noticed it's different around the camp as opposed to what was happening maybe before the England match and Wales match in spring?
Not really. I think the Wales match in the spring, it was a 6-day turnaround. It was fairly manic that week, just trying to get ourselves organised and to recover from the French game. So this time we've had a little bit more time, and it's a very different team. So they're not recovering so much from Saturday, other than probably mentally for a few of them who are backing up. But it's more about having had time. We've had a few good trainings this week. We trained well this morning, and that gives us a little bit of confidence that we'll be very much a step ahead of where we were last week.
Joe, can I just get your thoughts on the selection with 4 changes? Was that always your plan, or did last week's performance change your plan?
No, it was always the plan. We've got to try to best prepare our 31, whichever player then makes the 31. To have had a bit of game time, to have got a little bit of rhythm, because you saw what it was like when a team has had a couple of games and a team haven't played, or the bulk of that team hadn't played at all. You're not suddenly at top speed. You need to get a little bit of a hit out, maybe 2 hit outs before you're up to speed. Particularly for us, it's probably the forwards, the bigger guys who need to have a few runs under their belt. Some of our backs play very well first up, and that gives us a little bit of comfort around the likes of Johnny and Robbie, Keith Earls, who are all highly likely to play next week, but not this week.
What's just, as you alluded to that, would that mean like Rory and Tyke particularly, would they possibly have missed this week, but now you decided to give them?
Well, yeah, and part of that formula is that they were very keen to get back in and get involved, and they felt that they were off, kind of just a bit off last week. And you don't have to be far off against a good team to suddenly be chasing your tail. So they felt that it would help them in their preparation if they got a little bit more time this week, and we'd be looking at potentially giving them 25 to 30 minutes would be the plan. Now, at the first contact, the plan can change, but that will help build them into the following week and hopefully springboard them beyond that, should they be selected.
Joe, who's covered Addison at fullback? How important is that when you're looking for utility players perhaps for the squad? Will can obviously play in a number of positions, but this is his first run out. What are you looking for from him?
Yeah, it's his first run out for a long time. He didn't play the back end of the season, so for Will it's a really important opportunity, but he has to hit the ground running. Now, he's trained really well this week, so we'd be very hopeful that he can slot in very quickly. He's obviously at the very last minute, before we played Argentina in November last year, he stepped in at very late notice. He wasn't even in the match day 23. He stepped in and played 13 and did a really good job for us against Argentina. So that's the sort of flexibility he offers, the fact that he plays on the wing. He's a very capable kicker of the ball, including goal kicking. So he becomes that jack of all trades that we may well need. But he's a jack of all trades, but he's a master of a few as well. And we'd love to see him put his best foot forward on Saturday.
Is that your out half cover, Joe? Or how are you looking
Yeah, I think as far as out half cover is, we've got a couple of guys. I think Will is one of them. I think Gary Ringrose is the other. Gary has played a bit of out half as a schoolboy, and he has a temperament and a skill base that would allow him to fill in there.
Joe, there's been obviously a lot of criticism, personal criticism of Rory Best this week. How's he responded in training this week? And was it always going to be your plan? I think you indicated there it might have been to have him involved in some way this weekend.
It wasn't originally the plan, but the plan is always, it's fluid because it has to be. You get guys who pick up knocks, or the guys who need a little bit more time, and Rory wants to get a little bit more time because he feels that he was underdone, and he didn't have the energy in his legs, and therefore when that fatigue kind of starts to affect other elements of the game. But I think the people who maybe really launched the criticism at him, I think some of it is unfair. The quality of what he provided as far as his support play and his breakdown work was still of a really good standard. And, to put his performance in a nutshell, that is the line out, when there are so many moving parts, he'll be disappointed with a few throws, but at the same time, we're disappointed with maybe a couple of the calls, a little bit of the speed and shape of the movement. So there is a little bit of, I think, undue criticism. At the same time, Rory is very self-critical, and so he is very conscious of wanting to improve himself. I'm not sure he's read what's external, but I know internally he sets an incredibly high benchmark for himself. He didn't reach that benchmark, and he's very keen to re-establish that benchmark coming off the bench on Saturday.
Joe, it's going to be a big day for Jack Carty. What do you hope to see from him in Anderson?
Just what he's provided at training, what he provided last time he came on in the Principality Stadium in that last few minutes. I thought he was self-assured. I thought he was accurate. He did a fantastic little grubber kick across for Jacob Stockdale to pick up, which got us in behind him. Jacob almost scored, and it built to the try that we did get. So I'd like to see that. I think he came off the bench, and two of the tackles, if you look back, two of the tackles he made were outstanding tackles. He got off the line, he chopped the player very quickly, and those are the elements that we'd love to see. He's obviously got a pretty accomplished kicking game, and he has to meld all those things into the performance he puts out there individually himself, but also he's got to bring other players into the game. He's a conduit for so much of what happens, because the 10, so much of the game flows through the 10. So it's a massive task for Jack, but we're really looking forward to seeing how he goes.
Joe, when you consider what happened last weekend, has this game suddenly turned into one of the most important games in recent years for you?
It's funny because last weekend should have been the most important game that we were thinking of, and if I'm to be frank, some of those players weren't thinking about last weekend. They were thinking about making sure they were on the plane, and that you can't afford to look after yourself when you can't afford to be behind the game like we were last week. So it is the most important game for a long time, because each week it should be the most important game. And I know that's a cliche that we have continually, I suppose, repeated over the last 6.5 years that I've been involved, but it's allowed us to probably get ahead in games. Probably close to 3/4 of the games that we've played, we've won, and that in itself has been a lot of focus on a week-to-week sort of commitment to what is immediately in front of us, not trying to worry about Scotland and the World Cup. And I do think we took our eye off the ball. I think we were not quite up for the game as we should have been, and we were a bit heavy-legged, and I accept the responsibility for that. But it's, sometimes that's a bit of a character test. Can you get over that and still deliver? Because there's always a chance in a 6-day and a 5-day turnaround, in the manner that we start the World Cup, that we could be a bit heavy-legged, because built into that is travel, to to Shizuoka and then further on down to Kobe. So you've got a travel day built in on the back of a 6 and a 5 day turnaround. So you're part of what we're trying to do this year, really, from the time we met at Christmas, is try to create scenarios where we're putting ourselves under pressure and seeing how well we react, and we didn't react nearly well enough last week.
We take the last one.
Kieran, I'll just ask you about some of you guys, I suppose, would have been thinking about places in the squad and getting on the plane. As Joe said, is there a sense after last week's performance that for a lot of the players playing this weekend, there could be places in the first 15 for grabs as well?
I think as players, we know how important this game ahead of us is. We know we have to hit the ground running and perform. So I think training this week, we've just been focusing on making sure we can put our best foot forward and try and make sure we fit into the systems and play as well as we can so we can put our hands up for selection.
Okay, guys, we'll shut down the live portion and move into the embargo written word. So, you guys at the back, just shut down.